I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us this morning. It's always exciting this time of year for us to share all the latest news and information and developments, and appreciate that. It's in the middle of harvest and right before the holiday rush, so we're going to be right to the point on everything, guaranteed. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Carroll, our VP of Compliance, who will be emceeing the event today, and we hope you get a ton of value out of it. And please be sure at the end of the seminar, when you exit, to complete the survey so we can do a better job next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jason. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Carroll. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to share the news with everybody. I'm going to be joined today by Sarah Fine, who is our research manager. She, along with Jessamine Bolts, are behind the scenes making everything happen here at ShipCompliant. They're responsible for most of the content today. I'm also going to be joined by Lisa Holmquist, who is our user experience designer, awesome member of the team. She's responsible for all of the software making that happens here at ShipCompliant. She's going to be doing some demonstrations on ShipCompliant Direct. Also, Patrick Barrett, who is the product owner for ShipCompliant Wholesale, is going to be doing some demonstrations as well. Patrick's going to show our integration with TTB, among a few other things. Okay, wanted to put a couple of upcoming events in front of you. First of all, a couple of ShipCompliant webinars. On November 12th and 14th, we're going to have a best practices webinar for doing perfect year-end reporting. This is both for ShipCompliant clients and non-clients. Everything you know to get ready for that January reporting period where all your reports come due, your monthly, your quarterly, your semi-annual, your annual reports all come due January, as you know. We want to help you get ready for that. That's the first one. The second one on December 17th, that's going to be for ShipCompliant clients only. That's going to be using ShipCompliant to make your January reporting a breeze. As you know, we at ShipCompliant, along with our partners at Wines and Vines, put out an annual direct shipping report. We're going to be doing that this year for the calendar year 2013 data. We're going to be doing that the week of January 20th, and we're really excited about that. Lots of really interesting trends this year in 2013. I hid the date from you on the last slide. The Direct-to-Consumer Wine Symposium, which is put on by our friends at Coalition for Free Trade and Free the Grapes, is going to happen on January 22nd and 23rd. We really encourage you to support this event, so support our friends at those organizations. Jason Eckenroth from ShipCompliant will be one of the featured speakers at that event. I'm also going to be on a panel at that event. We're excited about it. We hope to see you all there in San Francisco on January 22nd. Okay, with that, I'm going to jump into our regulatory updates section. First of all, just a few quick reminders. On-site shipments means something very specific. That means that the customer was physically present at your winery. They made a purchase, and instead of carrying it back with them in the plane or in their car, they decided to have it shipped back to themselves for personal consumption. Can't be a gift, can't be a wine club. This is a one-time on-site purchase where the person is shipping it back to themselves. And so with that, there are 45 states available for on-site sales, as you can see here. There are 41 states available for off-site shipping. So an off-site shipment includes any other type of shipment, be it a wine club shipment, shipment from the internet or over the phone, mail, fax, you name it. Everything else is going to be considered an off-site shipment. These can be made to 41 states, most of which are going to require you to have a permit in order to make licensed shipments into their state. Now, if you're a retailer, your picture is unfortunately much different. retailers can only ship to 14 states. That includes companies in California that have what's called the 1720 combination of licenses that the California ABC used to dish out. They also introduced recently a Type 85 internet sales license. So if you have either a 1720 or a Type 85 license, you only have access to these 14 states, the yellow ones being states that have reciprocity agreements for retailers. As we discussed last year, there is no such thing as a reciprocal state for wineries, but there are a few that remain for retailers. Okay, so we're going to jump into the states that actually had legislative action and passed bills this year in 2013. We're going to be talking about Montana, North Dakota, Nebraska, and Arkansas. Montana, if you'll remember, for a while had this concept of a connoisseur's license. This was a license that the consumer got and had to pay for that and prove it in advance of any shipments. This was a very problematic arrangement. FedEx and UPS actually ended up stopping shipping to Montana a couple of years ago, I believe. And so basically there was an effort made this year to draft a new law that's much closer to the model direct shipping bill in Montana. And that did pass, and that is now in effect. So now you can ship to Montana with a permit. If you were already selling to wholesalers or you were previously complying with the consumer permit system, you probably already had the foreign winery license. That ranges from $0 to $400. If you don't have that, if you've never done business in Montana before, you're going to need to first get the foreign winery license. Then everybody needs to get the $50 direct shipping endorsement in order to be eligible to ship to Montana consumers. So everybody needs a foreign winery license and the $50 direct shipping endorsement before proceeding with shipments. You do need to register your products in Montana in advance of making direct shipments. There's a customer aggregate volume limit, aka CAVL, which we call it internally. That's 18 cases per person per year. Monthly excise tax and shipment reports by the 15th. Both FedEx and UPS are approved to ship. North Dakota, if you'll remember, was a state where a couple years ago they started prohibiting fulfillment houses from making shipments to consumers. So you could only make shipments to North Dakota consumers from an in-house location from the same premise that was on your direct shipping permit in North Dakota. They changed that with this new law, which is now effective. And so what they did is they created a logistics shipper, aka fulfillment house license. They also created an alcohol carrier license for the common carriers, FedEx and UPS. So if we look here, we have a list of all of the approved logistics shippers and the approved carriers. There was FedEx did send out notices to people this week and last indicating that they were going to halt shipments as of November 1st, and that has changed. We have late breaking news on that front. FedEx is going to continue to ship to North Dakota consumers, and we have an approved statement as of today, October 17th. FedEx and officials from the state of North Dakota are in continuing discussions about keeping the state open for shipments by licensed DTC shippers. We have been informed that for the time being, those holding the required permits will be allowed to continue to process shipments via FedEx into the state past the previously announced stop date of November 1st, 2013. So they will continue. You may have heard news that they were going to stop on November 1st, and they are currently working with the ABC. Shipments will commence. On the left, you see a list of approved fulfillment houses that have licenses to ship. And so you can, as a winery, use these licensed fulfillment houses and common carriers to ship into North Dakota, you as a winery or a retailer obviously have to have your own permit on top of these permits from the logistics shippers and the approved carriers. Nebraska went through a slightly messy process to modify their laws. And although the effective date of the legislation is passed, they have not yet given guidance to licensees on how to comply with the new rules. So we are still awaiting guidance from the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission on what you're going to need to comply with these new rules. So for the time being, the status quo remains. The old permit system is still in effect. One thing to clarify that the LCC did clarify is that everybody that is shipping with a license must pay sales tax. So you should have been paying sales tax before, but there was a little bit of ambiguity there. So if you weren't paying sales tax before and you're still shipping under your license, please make sure that you pay sales tax. We expect probably in the near future to hear from Nebraska in terms of how they're going to enforce this new rule. There's a prohibited products list. So if they ban a product from the shelves, you can also not direct ship it. You have to notify the commission of the brands you're going to want to ship. You actually need to provide some form of notification to your wholesaler if you're working with one in the state. We're not sure exactly how that's going to work. An inconvenient change for you is that previously it was an annual excise tax report, and that's going to change to a monthly excise tax report. And they will also have a common carrier approval process in the state of Nebraska. Okay, Arkansas is last on the list. That's for a reason. They passed a bill, but it's pretty problematic. And I don't think that we've actually seen guidance yet from the Arkansas DFA/ABC, but we expect to have that guidance. This is a bill that would allow only on-site sales. You do need an additional license. It's one case per quarter. One of the two problematic provisions are on the bottom. First of all, the law says that you need to get a special shipping label that's actually generated by the state. And we don't know exactly how that's going to work yet. Also, it is restricted to private residences, so no shipping to businesses. So we are awaiting guidance on Arkansas and hope to have that shortly. A lot of people that I've talked to are going to choose not to ship for the time being under that new law. Okay. On top of the direct shipping changes this year, we've also seen some changes to some sales tax reporting requirements. So in Maine, the state tax rate increased from 5% to 5.5% effective October 1st, resulting in some pretty unusual filing frequencies. On October 15th, semi-annual and annual filers should have already submitted a return reporting sales through September 30th. The last quarter of 2013, which we're in, containing sales at the newly increased tax amount, are due by January 15th. Then it's back to normal for the 2014 calendar year. ShipCompliant Direct users automatically receive the necessary returns in their accounts, so no changes necessary. Just follow the deadlines that we're giving you within ShipCompliant in order to follow these changes. Virginia is actually one that's historically been pretty easy for collecting and remitting state sales tax because they have a statewide 1% local tax. On July 1st of this year, the state rate increased, but also specific cities and counties in Virginia increased their local sales taxes, making sales tax collection and remittance a little more complicated in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Everything is automatically updated in ShipCompliant for both of those states. So we have two, over the last couple of years, we've talked about the last two big states that really don't have a great direct shipping law on the books, Massachusetts and Pennsylvania. Both of these states are still in session. So in Massachusetts, there is a positive bill in play. A hearing is expected in the fall. Free the Grapes has been very active this year with their outreach and their efforts to get this bill passed through the Massachusetts legislature. And so we expect to hear from Massachusetts yet this year. Pennsylvania, several bills in play. You've heard a lot in Pennsylvania about the issue of privatization. The privatization bills included a direct shipping provision, but it's also separate. So even if you hear that privatization is not going to make it in this current session, there are still separate DTC bills in play in Pennsylvania. So both are still active. If you want to see direct shipping passed in Massachusetts and in Pennsylvania, the best thing to do is to utilize the resources of Free the Grapes. So use your social media tools, use Facebook and Twitter, your website. If you have consumers that are on your waiting list, encourage them to go to freethegrapes.org, put together a personalized message. They'll get it to the right people, the right committee members, the right legislators based on your zip code, and they'll also help you out with copy. So these bills are still in play, but they both need help. Best way to help, use Free the Grapes. Okay, so next year, we didn't talk a lot about the bills that failed in 2013, but several bills were introduced and didn't make it, so a lot of those are going to be carried over. These are all the states that are where we're going to expect to see legislation in 2014. South Dakota is one that really stands out because they're getting ready to run a bill, will probably be introduced in January, and it seems to have good momentum in South Dakota. However, one thing that's been uncovered is that in the interim, they're going to be looking for violations. So remember that South Dakota is a federal on-site state with a limit of 1 gallon per person per visit. That's about 5 bottles. And so it's extremely important, don't make off-site shipments. Only make those on-site shipments if the individual was physically present at your winery, wine clubs. Shipments are not allowed per the federal on-site provision. So please comply with this situation in South Dakota as it stands, and hopefully a positive bill will be passed next year. New Jersey has been in effect now for over a year. This is a bill that had a few issues with it. There is a 250,000 gallon capacity cap, which excludes lots of wineries. There's also there was an unexpected issue with respect to sales tax and corporate income taxes. So a lot of people have stayed away from New Jersey, and there will be an effort made to go in and fix those few provisions that have been problematic for folks. We're also going to see bills again in Delaware and Oklahoma. One thing that's a little bit unique about Oklahoma is that it actually has to go to public vote per Oklahoma law. So it's got a couple of hurdles in Oklahoma. And then finally, there will be bills run in Rhode Island, Indiana, and Utah to try to get favorable direct shipping bills passed in those states. Okay, the Marketplace Fairness Act, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but this is a bill that got some press a couple of months ago. This would be a nationwide bill that would result in states having the ability to require sales tax collection in their states. It passed the Senate. It along with a whole bunch of other stuff is dormant in the House, and nothing is passing the House these days, as you've heard. So not sure if that's going to be moving anytime soon, but if it did, the bottom line is it really wouldn't have an impact on most of you, and that's because you're already paying sales tax in most states. You know how to do it, and the vast majority of you will be under this $1 million exemption that was in the Senate bill for remote sales. We did some really rough math and calculated that only about 25 wineries would actually exceed that $1 million in remote sales, which is a pretty specific definition. So that would include your sales to, we've got the full map here on our blog on an article I wrote a couple months ago, only the sales in the bright green states where sales tax is not already a requirement and you're shipping there and they're a current streamlined sales tax state. Bottom line, uncertain as to whether or not this bill is going to move. Even if it moved, it would have a very negligible impact on you. Okay, timely update for you today. TTB is back. As you know, last night President Obama signed the bill to raise the debt limit ceiling and reopen the government. And so TTB is back online. As you know, COLA's online, Formula's online, and permits online were offline starting on October 1st. And what's important to know about this is that you should get in line. You should get in the queue because there is a backlog, and I'm going to show you that on the next slide. Aside from the shutdown, TTB has recognized that there is an issue with approval times, and they recognize that their budget is going south and not north, and so they have already made significant changes to the COLA process. And there's a long list of allowable revisions which we have blogged about, the TTB has on their website. You should all be familiar with these allowable revisions because, especially for wine, you can actually do a lot to your label and not have to refile a COLA. So there's no time and wait if you're just changing the vintage or you're just changing a bottle size or, you know, this other laundry list of allowable revisions. So they've already done a lot. But they're not going to stop there, and they're going to continue to push for significant changes to the pre-approval process. So you've probably heard a little bit about the fact that TTB is planning on going to a deemed approved model. So this would be a model where you don't actually have to wait in line to get your COLAs, that you would enter required information into the COLAs online system and would be automatically approved. For your COLA, they would just be shifting the enforcement here from the pre-approval process to the field. And that would have potentially big impacts on state product regulations and approval processes because they rely so heavily on the COLA as a prerequisite to their process. If TTB continues to relax the requirements, you're probably already running into issues where TTB says you don't have to get a new COLA, but the state's saying, hey, our regulations require it, so you know maybe you should go get a COLA. Those challenges are going to continue, and we're going to continue to keep you informed as to how this process develops, and hopefully work on some solutions here with TTB and the state agencies. With respect to the shutdown, what's important to note is that there's going to be a big backlog. There was already a big backlog, so prior to the shutdown, TTB was backed up to September 2nd for spirits labels, September 20th for malt labels, September 11th for wine labels. So if you woke up at the crack of dawn this morning and got first in the queue following COLAs online, getting back up and running, you could expect your wine label to be approved at the earliest on 11/27, although TTB has already updated their site to push those approval times up a couple days, so it's probably more like 27 to 30 days for wine labels. You also have to factor in the Thanksgiving holiday. So you're going to be looking at December. If you're first in line, you're going to be looking at mid-December to late December, likely, unless TTB makes some significant changes. If you get last in line, because during the shutdown, we calculated pretty roughly that there were probably about 7,000 labels that people needed to file but didn't have COLAs online accessible so that they could file them. So you're going to be somewhere between 0 and number 7,040 on that list if you file your COLAs today or by the end of the week. I wanted to touch on PRO a little bit. PRO is short for Product Registration Online. This is a system that was developed by ShipCompliant. It's a system where we go and give to the states an online system for approving electronic product registrations. So PRO actually has significant momentum right now in the states, and the green states are states where we have PRO and it's active and everything is up and running. Illinois, Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, and Washington. The blue states are states where PRO is going to be coming soon before the end of the year. And one thing that's notable, actually two things that are notable here, Arkansas passed a law, not related to direct shipping, but they passed a law this year that will require product registration for anybody that's selling to wholesalers in Arkansas. This was previously not the case, but it is the case now that you're going to have to start doing product registrations in Arkansas. Expect to see something from the state of Arkansas in the coming week, but they're going to be implementing PRO as of October 22nd, and you will be able to register your products starting on Tuesday, and will have until the end of the year. You'll have until January 1st to get your products registered for the first time. One additional point that I wanted to make on product registration online is that South Dakota will be adopting the product registration online system, and that's an existing law. You've always had to register your products in South Dakota. They have annual renewals. The annual renewals are due by January 1st, and so you can, as of November 4th, South Dakota is going to be live with PRO, and between November 4th and January 1st, you'll be able to get your product registration renewals completed in South Dakota. Okay, just a few quick compliance reminders. Can't stress enough how important it is to use age verification. It's required by Wine Institute and Free the Grapes, codes of conduct, codes of advertising standards. There are, even though it's only required in state by law in 4 different states, you should do it in every state, because you've seen compliance checks, aka stings, in North Carolina. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in South Dakota. Lisa's actually going to show you how to review your age verification settings today, but it's extremely important that you run those on all sales that you do. You only have to do it once per customer, and then they're good to go for any reorders that they do with you. Another thing I wanted to mention is that we're updating ShipCompliant to provide some additional granularity, and that's going to be effective on November 1st. So we already prohibit like spirits products and malt products and that kind of thing. If you try to pass those through ShipCompliant through the direct shipping statutes, we're updating the system to also allow for states that are specifically saying that above a certain alcohol by volume, even for wine products, they can't be shipped into the state. So expect those rules to be coming shortly in Montana, Vermont, and South Carolina.